right. My name is Cheryl Henry, and I am your facilitator for your virtual externship. And what I'm going to do to save time and to allow you to focus on exactly what we're doing, what we're going to be doing, and what the format of the course is I'm actually going to read to you this document, which is also going to be emailed to you so that you can review it when you need a refresher on exactly what the course is about, how it's formatted, what you're going to be doing, etc. So first I'm going to read the overview of the externship, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the format of the assignments, especially for this week. All right? So let's read together. The MIBC virtual externship is meant to simulate the tasks routinely performed by a medical insurance biller who has some fundamental knowledge of procedural or CPT coding and diagnostic or ICD-10-CM coding, and an understanding of the billing cycle in the ambulatory outpatient physician setting. So I'll say this is different, and most of you have already are aware of the fact that what we learn at Northwest College is specifically related to outpatient physician coding and not inpatient facility coding. And there's a distinction between the two, as you all might know. All right? Just want to make sure we understand that distinction. And can everybody see what I'm reading okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the view for the sake of being able to read it. And this should be, I don't know how many times I have changed this to 5, but it keeps changing back to 4. And I'm going to, I'll leave it for that, like that for now. So the MIBC virtual externship is formatted in 9 sessions. So you're going, unless they find a live site for you, you have 9 weeks of sessions to do for the virtual externship. What happens is sometimes students will start the virtual externship and they'll find a live site and they will leave. But one of the reasons that you're encouraged to do, or at least to start the virtual externship, is so you can save time. Because as you know, you have to have a certain amount of hours clocked in order for you to get your diploma and finish the program. So this is an effort, there's a dual effort here. One of them is to make sure that you don't lose any hours by waiting for a site. And for medical billing and coding right now, for many of quite a few of the programs at Northwest College and Glendale, it's hard to find sites right now because of the shutdown. So what we want to do is facilitate you not losing your hours, at the same time give you a virtual experience in the basic fundamental tasks that you would be performing if you were in a full revenue cycle environment. And we'll talk about the revenue cycle in a minute. In addition, some of you might raise your hand if you've requested being put on a live site, or if your career services rep. Good. So what'll happen is you'll be here until they find a site for you. And I guarantee you, especially since you're starting in session 5, I will guarantee you that what you're learning here is going to be of value once you get to the live site. What I've discovered, because I teach at Northwest, and I've been in the field for a long time, and I'm very familiar with how this works, how billing and coding works. And what I have found is that you have an excellent curriculum at Northwest College. At the same time, there are practical aspects related to application of theory that you may not get enough of during your core courses. This is meant to be covered in your externship, but still there are aspects of billing and coding that you don't get enough hands-on. So this is meant to give you that hands-on and prepare you for that. And it just so happens that the session that you're starting in session 5 has a complete revenue cycle in it. Some sessions, like session 1, starts with some rudimentary things like insurance verification and authorization. And then the next one session 2 has to do with understanding the ins and outs of entering patient demographics. All of your sessions have coding, have you reading and coding from reports. So if you didn't get enough practice with reading reading reports in the simulated internship, just raise your hand if the simulated internship sounds familiar to you. When I pull it up, it might look familiar, but essentially you have to read reports, and from the reports you have to abstract the CPT code and the diagnostic code. All right, good. All right. So, and for some reason, some students didn't get practice with that. In every single session, you have practice with that. For some of you, it's going to be easier than for others, but I review the basics of this. So the assumption in the internship is that you have some exposure to everything in the curriculum. And so it's designed to give you practical application of everything in the curriculum. Let me continue. The MIBC virtual externship is formatted in 9 sessions. Each student begins their virtual externship based on the same modular format followed during your core courses. That is, you will begin in whatever the current session is. This week, we are beginning session 5, and this is where you will start. And I want to emphasize this. It's very important because session 4 is still visible to you. So when you log into the virtual externship, you're going to be able to see session 4. Don't start on session 4. I keep it open because sometimes, especially during the lockdown, we have students who are, in addition to doing the externship, they're having to help their children with online learning, you know, for their elementary school students or junior high or even high school. So it takes time. So I extend the deadline for these students, therefore keeping the previous session open. So make a note, a mental note and a physical note to yourself that even though when you open up your externships course, you're going to see session 4, you start on session 5. I've had students do that, and I still count their work, but it's really important that you start where we are. Okay, this week you'll be beginning session 5. We are beginning session 5, and this is where you'll start. Each of these sessions involves performing various tasks you would be expected to complete if you were working in an individual facility or physician's office or an actual medical billing business. This includes, before I go further, the reason that I distinguish physician's office from an actual medical billing business is because many times externs or students out of the program are actually placed into businesses that do nothing but medical billing. So you're not in the physician office setting. And within those businesses, you will do one, if not all, of the tasks that we are going to be doing in the externship. For example, you might be sitting and just doing strict data entry, where you're taking patient demographic information and loading it into a practice management system. You might be in a position where you're taking a super bill and you're entering that super bill into the practice management system. You might be in a position in the medical billing business where you're entering payments only. All right, so there's a distinction between the two. But as we said in the externship, all of these are covered. Okay, so this includes insurance verification, pre-authorization for a service performed. This is done in session 1. Scheduling appointments and entering demographics, performed in session 2. Completing super bills and submitting claims. This is performed in session 3. And it continues with session 4 with all the fundamental tasks in the revenue cycle, including posting payments from an explanation of benefits. So raise your hand if you're familiar with an explanation of benefits. Okay. So Jackie, I forget which, let me see the campus. You're from West. So did you all practice posting explanation of benefits?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
In class.
Okay. Which ones did you use in that course, by the way? Do you remember?
What do you mean?
Which explanation of benefits were you able to use, and how did you post them? Was it in SimChart? Or with one of your SimChart exercises?
I can't really remember.
Okay, don't worry about it. We'll be fine. You'll be fine. I just want to make sure what you're familiar with. That's all. It's not an issue. Let's see. Super bill submitting claims, and continues with in session 4 with fundamental tasks in the revenue cycle, including posting EOBs. This includes the previously listed tasks plus posting explanation of benefits in session 4. Also included in each session, and this is really important, is a requirement for procedural and diagnostic coding of a variety of reports. So this is every session. There's a lot of work. We created this in an effort to make sure that you get 20 hours. So there's 20 hours worth of work here. As part of your virtual externship, you will be required to utilize 2 resources on your Evolve platform. The first resource is the Simulation Playground within SimChart for the medical office. Raise your hand if you're familiar with the Simulation Playground. Good. Okay, good. The second resource is Buck's Simulated Medical Coding Internship. Raise your hand if I know I've asked this before, but raise your hand if you're familiar with the internship. This is where the reports are. Okay. Therefore, this is important. We ask that you make a request to your last instructor to keep you on the roster for these courses within Evolve, or add you back if you've been taken off. So we instructors we create courses, as you know. This is where you do your work. In my case, what I do is I have all of my tests and practice materials and everything on the Evolve platform, especially since we've been in this format, in this blended format. So it's important that you remain on the roster. It saves time, and it saves us having to get another key or access key for you to finish your extern, or to finish your program. So make sure that when we're done with this, that you actually contact your instructor to make sure, send him or her an email to make sure that you're still on the roster. Okay. Below are academic resources I strongly suggest you utilize during your virtual externship. This is a suggestion, and I'm going to get the book out now. As a matter of fact, I think for session 1, you actually need these resources. It's important because you need to do a lot of review, because some of this stuff is just kind of back there. Number 1, Chapter 4, Insurance Basics. This is Fordney's Insurance, the blue book you have here, 15th edition. In this book, you will always want to reference Chapter 4, Insurance Basics, especially page 65 for a reference to the revenue cycle, or the revenue or the billing cycle. How many of you have your books handy with you? Some of you have them online, so don't worry about it. But there's a reference, and we will review this again, probably in the review session next week. But there's a reference to the revenue cycle, so it's really important that you take a look at what the revenue cycle is, because this is what you're going to be doing. All right? How many of you remember what the billing revenue cycle is? Anybody have any memory of that? I see you shaking your head, Crystal. You want to share? Go ahead. Tell us what you know. You don't have to.
I don't remember everything. I just remember the revenue cycle, and it starts with the patient coming in, and then taking all the information, and then billing for whatever services.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So you pretty much got it. Billing for the services, and then submitting the claim, which is billing for the services, and then receiving payment and posting the payment. And once the account is zeroed out, that's the end of it. Okay. So you do know what the revenue cycle is. So thank you. But be familiar with this, because not only will you have to be familiar with it in order to consciously or with a focus perform the task in the internship, but also it's something that you need to refamiliarize yourself with in case they pull you off of the virtual externship and find a site for you. You want to make sure you're aware of where you are and what you're going to be doing within that. Also in Chapter 14 of Fordney's, there are step-by-step instructions on the completion of a CMS 1500 claim form. Okay. The reason that this is important is because each week you're going to have to manually complete a CMS 1500 claim form. There's a writable CMS 1500 claim form within the files that you have each week. The reason that I have students complete this is because it's one thing when you're doing it in SimChart and you're inputting the information for the super bill and you output the claim and you have a claim form. But it's another thing to take the elements on that super bill or on that claim form and transfer those manually to a CMS 1500, because this is where I can see whether or not you actually understand that all the components of that CMS 1500 claim form mean something. For example, raise your hand if you know what a diagnosis pointer is. Raise your hand. You can raise. I see, Krista, you're shaking your head, but raise your hand. So, and see, that's precisely my point. It's one thing, and in reality, in the field, you probably will never have to complete a claim manual CMS 1500, but what will happen is that you will get a denial when you're posting that explanation of benefits. All of these claims are not going to be paid, and what your task is to research why they're not paid. And for example, a denial code might say something like invalid diagnostic code in box 21 or what, of the CMS 1500. You want to make sure you know what that means. All right. And you want to know why they're saying, if you have the right code in there, if you have the ICD-10 code in that box for nausea, why is it that they're saying it's invalid? Well, they could be saying it's invalid because the patient came in for an office visit and an EKG or a pregnancy test, and in the diagnosis pointer box, you're not indicating what that pregnancy test is for or what the office visit is for. All right, so you need to be familiar with those elements. Therefore, you do a manual CMS 1500 claim form, and you might be surprised at the percentage of students who do not know how to complete a CMS 1500. So, and it's okay. As I said, if you're doing billing, you don't really have to do it manually, but you need to know what's there. Therefore, Chapter 14, Completing the CMS 1500 in your textbook, has step-by-step instructions for completing the CMS 1500 thoroughly. As a matter of fact, on page 300, there's step-by-step instructions. And from 326 to 334 of your Ford needs, there are examples of completed CMS 1500. So what I expect is that when you do these assignments, that they're done right. All right. I have students be aware that sometimes it takes me a while to get to the grades because I have other responsibilities with Northwest College. But know that I will look at every single thing that you hand in. So don't just hand anything in there. Hand the right things in. So you can reference these page ranges and have examples of completed CMS 1500s and the proper completion of them. Also, so we have Chapter 4, 14, and Chapter 16, Receiving Payments and Insurance Processing. Make a note of the picture of the explanation of benefits on that, and use this as an example because on this page, the explanation of benefits that they show, they do a breakdown of all the elements of the explanation of benefits for you. So you'll be able to see it. Okay? So now any questions so far? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do an overview of Session 5. Scheduling, what you're going to be doing in Session 5 is scheduling appointments, entering different demographics and insurance information. And again, all of this is done in the simulation playground. Completing a super bill and submitting a claim form, posting explanations of benefits, ICD-10 and CPT coding of reports. And last but not least, this is usually where students say, really? But yes, the answer is really. It's required that you create a YouTube channel and complete a YouTube video for each specific focus for the week. So for example, the focus for the week is the purpose of the CMS 1500. That should be really easy. You have instructions that I'll show you in a minute or two on how to create a YouTube channel. It's very easy. I created a YouTube channel in less than 5 minutes. And the YouTube videos don't have to be elaborate. So for example, when you do the YouTube video, at least have your top on for your whatever your uniform is that you wear at Northwest College. Make sure you have that on so that you can present professionally. The theory behind you doing the YouTube videos is that in case an employer wants to see your speaking skills and your grasp, your mastery of certain subjects. So, they don't have to be long. I don't want any longer than a minute and a half or 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be that long. An example for the CMS 1500 is, my name is Cheryl Henry, and what I'm going to discuss in the next minute is the purpose of the CMS 1500. Even though the CMS 1500 is rarely used by larger billing organizations, it is still a form that is considered the standard for submitting claims from a provider's perspective, in contrast to the hospital perspective. So a patient will come into the office, they'll visit the doctor, and these charges are put into the practice management software and submitted on a CMS 1500 that is subsequently mailed to the insurance company. That's it. Simple as that. You don't have to have vast knowledge of this. You don't have to explain a lot of detail about it, but it's simple as that. So before we go on to look at the course, attendance requirements is for the full 20 hours. In order for me to give you attendance, number one, all of the assignments have to be handed in. Can't miss any of them. Occasionally I'll get students who don't hand in their YouTube video. They probably forget about it, or they think it doesn't matter, but it does. So make sure you get all the assignments in by 11:59 on Thursday. I mentioned earlier that I am giving some leniency with this because I have been contacted by numerous parents who have to help their children with their school, and they work, so between all of that they don't have enough time. But it's really important that if you can't complete all the assignments within the required deadline, that you let me know before the deadline that you need more time. That's all I require. And you can text me, let me scroll up here, at this number, 909-610-9649, and you can email me at my Northwest College email address. And let's go down here, scroll down. All assignments have to be completed weekly. And you also have to attend the Friday review session at 11 a.m. You don't have to do it today, but you have to do it next time. Okay? And that's usually very short. It's usually, unless there are students who have questions about specific aspects of the assignments, it's usually no more than 30 minutes. Final note, the MIBC virtual externship is based on the curriculum you completed in your medical insurance billing and coding program at Northwest College. It's designed to give you an opportunity for hands-on application of theory and further the application of practical work completed in your KENS and Ford-Nees workbooks. SimChart and the simulated coding internship to assist you in preparation for employment. So basically what this means is that there's some things that we expect you to know, but I have found that there's some students who actually didn't get exposure to certain things, and I am willing to help you with that. So this is what's going to happen when you open up your virtual externship course. When you get the link, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see the MIBC internship, externship course, and on the side you're going to see all of these sessions. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to be starting on session 5, and this is where we are. This is how session 5 looks. All sessions open up with an explanation of what the general focus is for the week. For example, you'll be entering demographics, insurance information, completing a super bill, submitting a claim, posting payments, and you will also demonstrate your understanding of the CMS 1500, the purpose of the CMS 1500 claim form. That's what you're going to do in the YouTube video. And since I'm here, what I'd like to show you is that the YouTube video instructions for completing the YouTube video are right here at the very beginning under General. Now some of these you should not, you see here where it says hidden from students. This means that when you open this up, you're not going to be able to see it. So don't worry about this. We used to use this, but it doesn't work very well for what we're doing in the internship. If I have any announcements, they'll be here, and this is where you'll always click when you come into the review session. But make a note that this is where you get your instructions for creating the YouTube channel. I'm going to go back to session 5. At the beginning of every week, you will see specific videos that I posted, that I have posted previously. This is review for overview and instructions. I'm probably going to make this invisible because essentially the recording that I'm making now is going to suffice for that, and I'll send you a link for this recording sometime before the end of the day once it's rendered and I uploaded it, etc. Okay, but it's really important as a routine every week that you read everything before you start your work. Specifically, and most importantly, every week there is a checklist of activities. And if you follow this checklist, you won't be confused and you won't miss any assignments. Oftentimes, or you won't miss anything or get stuck. And I'll give you an example of this. If you, after you've completed, for example, we're doing step 3. I'm focusing on step 3 now, where you're entering demographics and insurance information for all the files. I'll show you that in a minute. If you don't create an office visit, you will not be able to create a super bill or a claim form. So if you skip this step, you won't be able to do anything else. So it's really important that you don't just jump to doing a super bill. This is one of the main questions that I have for beginning students in this, is that I'm not able to find it. They'll say something like, I'm not able to find an encounter so that I can create a super bill. You'll see that underneath here there are instructions for completing every single thing you have to do. There are step-by-step instructions. And if you follow the checklist and if you follow the instructions, you will probably need very little help from me. But I'm here if you need me. These are very detailed. So the first thing that you do when you come into the course is you review the checklist and follow everything that it says on the checklist. For example, open the folder named Files for Completing Simulation Playground Activities. Okay? Files for Completing Simulation Playground Activities, right here. So let's look at a distinction between a couple of things. There are drop boxes for your work once you complete them. And as you can see, they're different. They're a hand with an assignment, like you're handing in an assignment. These are distinguished from the files that you use for completing your assignments. So in this case, and I might move this file up so that it's in order. As the directions say, open the folder named Files for Completing Simulation Playground Activities. Okay? And this folder here, Files for Completing Simulation Playground Activities, I'm going to open it up. And what you see here are demographics. You see demographic sheets. I'm going to open them up now. I'm going to open up the first one on Rochelle Charrington. Let's open hers up. See what it looks like. The sheet that you're about to see now, granted, in many cases, patients that are coming to the technology appropriate office, so some offices are very updated or up on technology, they have a different way of entering demographics. But for the sake of getting practice with the steps, we're going to have you manually complete demographics on patients. Okay, so what we have is we have a situation in your externship where you have the necessity of blending two different resources. You're going to be blending SimChart, Simulation Playground, with outside resources that we are utilizing from someone who's assisting Northwest College and helping you guys get through your externship. The outside resources are these documents and files that are contained in Files for Completing the Playground Activities. Demographics and insurance information is one of them. Among the other ones that you'll be doing this session will be, it's slow because I have a lot of windows open, but we're going to go back to session 5. Other files that you're going to be using are going to be these files. For example, the first thing that you're going to be doing is creating an appointment, and I'll open that up so you can see the appointment schedule and how it looks. And most of you know you can download the appointments, open it up. My suggestion when you're doing the work is to open up the appointment schedule first and then open up your demographics. So in this case, what we're doing is we're scheduling appointments. This appointment schedule has appointments for other clinics that you'll be working with too. But for the clinic that you're currently working with for this week, let's see, where is Rochelle Carrington? I hope I have the right appointment schedule here. Yeah, it actually is going to be this clinic, the first clinic. Schedule the following 30-minute appointments for cardiology. So everybody that you're going to be scheduling an appointment for is going to have a cardiology appointment. Not only are they going to, so the first thing you need to do is schedule the appointment. The second thing you need to do is enter the demographics. And then from there, let's go back to session 5. The next folder involves, okay, good. I'm glad it did that. The next folder involves so we have appointment scheduling, we have demographics, and the next file we have our super bills and explanations of benefits. Okay, so for each patient, for example, for Rochelle Carrington, there's a super bill that I'm going to open up. And again, my advice to you is to open all of these up. Open up the appointment scheduler, demographics, the super bill, and then last but not least, what you'll be doing, and I'll show you this, what you'll be doing is you will be posting payments. So this is the explanation of benefits. So each patient has, you have to make an appointment. You have to create an office visit, create a super bill, create a claim, and once a claim is submitted on the ledger in SimChart, you will be required to post an explanation of benefits, and this is how the explanation of benefits looks. Okay. There are instructions. One of the reasons that we're doing this is doing it this way is because in real life, especially if you're going to be working at a billing company, as I mentioned earlier, you might be required to do any one of these tasks or all of them, right? And so you want to be familiar with what an explanation of benefits looks like, but you also want to be familiar with the variations of the types of explanations of benefits. So I know for some of you, you're going, wow, but don't worry about it. You'll see the process once if you follow the instructions, you should be able to get through each step quite fine. So in opening up your session, if you follow these steps, the folders, access the appointment schedule, session 5, and follow the instructions for creating an appointment for each patient using the instructions for scheduling an appointment. This is for you as new students only. Then you enter the patient demographics and insurance patient on all the files for completing simulation playground activities folders in session 5. Then you create an office visit super bill claim for each patient using the instructions for the documents provided below. You post payments and explanation of benefits provided using the instructions below. The next thing you do is manually complete a CMS 1500 using a patient of your choice from those you've entered. So this is going to be really easy. There is within your assignments. Oh, by the way, this is the fee schedule. Are you all familiar with the fee schedule that you use for SimChart? There's a Walden Martin fee schedule. Well, even though you're using SimChart or the Simulation Playground, and with the Simulation Playground, you only have access to Walden Martin Clinic, you will be overriding everything Walden Martin with the information that you have for these patients. So the only exception to that is every doctor, no matter what the doctor says on the demographic sheet or on the super bill, rather than looking for that doctor, because you're not going to find it in the simulation playground. The only doctor that you ever use is Julie Walden. I think that's her name. But these instructions, again, those specifics are in these instructions. So, completion of a CMS 1500. It just so happens that in this case, the writable CMS 1500 is in the assignment folder. So if you click that and download the writable CMS 1500, I don't know if any of you have ever used this, but it's a blank CMS 1500. And this is probably the easiest part of your assignment, because you will do an output of a CMS 1500 from the simulation playground. Part of what you have to do is do that. All you have to do, if you want to get this right and to keep it easy, is transfer the information from one of those CMS 1500s that you've completed and put it on this claim form. Simple. And again, it might seem like, why are we doing this? But it's doing this because it's known that the way you learn is by doing. And there is a such thing as hands-on and seeing, no matter what you think you know or what you've been exposed to theoretically, or in this case, what you've done in a practice management system that results in the output of a CMS 1500. It is very helpful for your cognitive retention to actually complete this yourself. So all you have to do really is take one of those outputted CMS 1500s and transfer the information onto this writable CMS 1500. See? You can write on it. All right? So I'm going to go back here to the assignment, go back to session 5, review a few other things. Let's see. I had to take time to open up the simulated internship for you to show you what some of you may have, but you don't know you've been exposed to it. So it'll take me a minute to do that. So let me move on while my Elsevier site is coming up. Scrolling down. The other thing, oh, okay, good. Don't want session 6. You will need a fee. Enter the fees manually, and this is the fee schedule here, down here at the bottom. The next thing, I'm sorry that my movement is kind of slow. It's just that I have so many windows open and it's a memory thing. This is where you'll do the reports. The last thing I'm going to show you before I get into your simulation playground review is this is where you will complete your reports. Each week you're going to have 2 or 3 reports to do in various sections. This week you're going to be doing reports from the surgery section, medicine section, and radiology section. Does anyone know what I'm referring to when I say surgery, radiology, and medicine sections? What am I referring to? Which one of your manuals am I referring to? You can speak up. You can unmute yourself and speak up if you like. What I'm referring to is the section of your CPT manual, so let me get it. So each, as you know, your CPT manual is divided into 6 sections. There's evaluation management, there's surgery, there's medicine, there's radiology, etc. So we're coding from each one of these chapters. Your internship, and I'm going to pull this up right now because mine is open now. I'm going to pull this over. You should still have access to the online internship, and once you get in, online internship, mine is an older version because for some reason I can't get in the current version, but they look the same, essentially. Does this look familiar to you now, for those of you who think you may not have gotten it? Look familiar now? This doesn't look familiar to you, Crystal? How many, raise your hand if this does not look familiar to you. So this means that you didn't do reports. If this doesn't look familiar, this does not look familiar. Now it does, right? Maybe, or yes. So This is where you will be doing the reports that in the medicine section, the surgery section, the medicine section, and the radiology section. So for this week, as it says, surgery, medicine, radiology, and going back to the online internship, what you would do is you would go into the surgery section. Let's see, where is surgery? Or actually, this is interesting. Here it is, general surgery. You'll be going into the surgery section. You'll click surgery, and there are named reports, 18.1, 18.2, etc. The same for the medicine section, and the same for the radiology section. Based on the instructions that you have here, you would go into this. Let me go back here. Based on your instructions, you would go in and you would do, for example, in the surgery section, you would do report 1, excision implants, and report 2, breast biopsy. You'd have to go into report 1. Something's different about these. I'm going to have to check these because there's something about the title of these that is different. Oh, I know. For yours, it's probably the same. I have a different version of it. In any case, let's see. You would open up the report. Excision. I'm going to make sure that I haven't had any. I'm going to just open up one of the reports. I haven't had any feedback from students saying that they can't find it. But when you open up the report, what you have to do is read the report, highlight it, and determine based on the information in the report what you think the CPT is going to be and what you think the diagnosis is going to be. And you have to read the report based on, and for example, when you're coding operative reports, you'll see, let's see, for example, you'll see the preoperative diagnosis and you'll see a post-operative diagnosis. This is usually where you get your diagnosis from. You'll also see the indications and what the procedure performed is going to be. Excision of a lipoma of the left posterior axillary fold. This is where you have your information. So these are relatively straightforward, although it is really important that you read the entire report. And as a matter of fact, within the course for each session, I have posted a document that gives you tips on coding reports. Let's go to session 5. Right here. So for those of you who have never done this before, this is going to be some immersive learning. So make sure you reference that document for how to approach looking at a report, the things that you should highlight and be familiar with, and how to abstract the information from the report and create diagnostic and procedural codes. And that's all you have to do. And once you do it, you submit your answer. It's going to tell me it's wrong because I'm just doing this as an example. Once you submit your answer, it will give you what's right and wrong. Of course, I'm completely wrong because I just am doing this, but it tells you the answer. I don't mind you doing this. Once you get to this point, what you want to do is download it, print it, and save it as a PDF and put it in the Dropbox. The reason that I don't mind you doing this is because you will learn by reading the rationale in a reverse sort of way. You'll learn how to abstract information, the details of the information that should have been abstracted, and how the CPT and diagnostic codes were arrived at. Under no circumstances do I want to see blank answers. Do your best, and even if it's wrong, I don't judge you based on whether or not you get the precise answer. What I'm looking at is if you made the effort. Now, I clearly didn't really make an effort because I'm demonstrating here, and there's not time to go through and analyze the report. I just chose just to show you, but I can tell whether or not you've made an effort at doing this. So I don't want this to be an area, we don't want this to be an area of stress and strain for you, but rather we want this to be an area that you learn. So you have your reports to do, and there's my demonstration on that. And any questions about this? Okay, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go back because I want to finish up as quickly as possible. I'm going to go back to, let's see, I'm going to open up, since I'm going to close some of my windows. I'm going to close some of these because you see what they are. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And what I'm going to do is pull over this. The last thing I'm going to show you is the simulation playground with specific instructions. Are there any questions so far about anything? This is enough to keep you busy, isn't it? It's actually as close to real life as we could possibly get. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is that we are using two different resources, and so there are going to be times that you find that things don't match. It's not the same as SimChart. So you're going to have to create or recreate certain things. So here's your SimChart. This is an example of SimChart for the medical office. Everybody knows how to get into SimChart. And usually when you get into SimChart, let me close this. I'm keeping the other windows open because these are windows that you're going to have to use. Slow. Oh my God. I'm sorry, you guys. I closed it inadvertently. I apologize. I'm going to pause the recording here just a minute. And bear with me. It's going to take a minute because of the memory, so just bear with this as quickly as possible. Sorry about that. See if I can get some of these windows to save memory. Okay, so when you open up SimChart, unlike what you see here, you'll only see your own. I use mine for purposes of demonstration. You'll see all your assignments that you've already completed. This is not where we're going to do the work. Where we're going to do the work is in the Simulation Playground. So you click Simulation Playground. Even if it is your first time, you should always click Return to Previous Session, even if it's your first time. If you don't do this when you go in, because you're going to be in and out of this, if you don't do this, you'll lose all the information on the demographics. Everything that you've done, especially the demographics and appointments, will be lost. So always start with Return to Previous Session once you get in the SimChart. And the rest of this should be really familiar to you. Keep in mind, I realize that I'm going through this very quickly. Not so. I mean, it's taking a while to get through the orientation because it always does. But keep in mind that the instructions that you have in your internship course are very detailed. And if you follow each of these instructions every step of the way, you will be fine. So this is where you'll enter all of the appointments. You'll always print the appointments for example, I'm going to create a new visit, new patient visit. I'm going to say unknown. I'm always going to click create a new patient just so that you can have the preliminaries of the new patient information here. The second step, after you make the appointment, when you enter the new patient in making the appointment, you're going to have, for the second step, for the second task you have of entering demographics, you have to open up the demographic screen. So, but for the sake of demonstration here, I'm going to put in a fake name, a fake date of birth, just for the heck of it, fake phone number. The provider is always going to be Julie Walden. Even though there's another provider on the demographic sheets, another provider on the super bill, always going to be Julie Walden. The visit insurance, we're going to just choose something here. Name of policyholder, we're just going to put numbers in here, just for the heck of it, to finish it up. So when you're preliminarily entering the patient, 2-year-old boy, you basically have the patient entered, and later on it's going to let you know, by the way, if you don't have everything in. What am I missing? Here we go. ID number. And you save the patient, and then the patient is in, and later on you go in and do the demographics. So once this is done, once a patient appointment is made, you simply, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't really make the appointment, did I? Okay, let's hurry up and get this done to 10 o'clock and save it. And that's that. Once you make appointments for all the patients on the appointment list, you simply print this up, save it as a PDF, and put it in a Dropbox. And the next thing, of course, are demographics, which are based on those demographic sheets that I showed you before. You always want to do a search for the patient first, and which you've already created. And since I already created Kyle Jones, I'm going to choose him. And then at this point is when I go back in using the demographic sheet and enter the rest of the information on the guarantor insurance. I'm not going to finish that now. The next step, all the other steps, such as making the office visit, you'll do under clinical care tab, and you'll follow the instructions for creating an office visit under clinical care. And for entering the super bill and the claim form, you'll do it under coding and billing and follow the specific instructions as outlined in the step-by-step instructions in the course. The only thing that I will say about this is as follows. What will happen is, on the super bills that you have, make a note and remember that these super bills are not made for SimChart. They're from another source. You will not use Kim Brown, you'll use Julie Walden. There will be occasional times when you will find that, for example, here, what we have is we have to enter a cardiac rehab session. That's not on the fee schedule for SimChart, where you usually pull your fees down. What will happen in this case is you will have to go to the section in the super bill, the electronic super bill that you're creating, where an office visit is created. And rather than, let's see, I think I X'd out. That's the last thing I should have done is X out of SimChart. Let me see if I can pull it back up. You'll notice that when you're making the super bills, here we go. For billing and coding, let's just pull a patient up, for example. Select this patient. When you're creating the super bills, you have to have an office visit to create the super bill. All right, so the first step in the process of making an office visit, there should be an office visit there already for you to create the super bill. And this is the electronic super bill. If you follow the instructions, you should have done this in SimChart already, but if you follow the step-by-step instructions, you'll end up here, and you'll end up going through various pages of the super bill to enter the related charges. But with regard to what I was mentioning previously, you're going to find with these blended resources, you're going to find some CPT codes that you can't find in SimChart, and this is where you would scroll down and create it. For example, that create for the CPT code for the cardiac rehab, I don't remember what it is. I'm just going to put a fake code in. You would put here, and you would put the same fee that's on the super bill for that, you'd put there as well. So let's move to the super bill, 93798, you'd put that code in where the visit would normally go. And as you can see, there is a fee for that. Let me shrink this so you can see it. The fee for that is $95, and you just put that in. And your super bill for this one should have the designated diagnoses in the spot as designated, along with the fee. And if you enter this right at the end of it, when you create the claim, do the output, and then later on post the payment, the explanation of benefits for this patient, everything should align. You should see a $95 charge that you have to post a payment for. Any questions about this so far? Okay, I almost made it. It's actually, let me just see something.